Chapter 7, The Noose. 2 years of ominous silence. 2 years have passed. They did not pass by days or hours, but rather through pressure, tension, and constant pulling. 2 years, while the world appeared to be moving perfectly fine in the eyes of people. Everyone envied them. But deep inside each one of them, the ship was sailing in the opposite direction. It was sailing, while slowly sinking. Mohammed. In the first year, he was like a tireless machine. He ran after money, after a false sense of security, and after the feeling that he had become a formidable figure and famous in Port Said. He opened a shop, and months later, he opened the second. People began calling him Al Primo, the clever man who knows how to turn everything in his favor. But no one saw his eyes as he woke up terrified from his sleep. No one saw him counting money with a trembling hand, not out of joy, but to reassure himself that it was still real. That bag, which entered his life without permission, had become a noose around his neck. The more he succeeded, the tighter the rope became. Mohammed was no longer Mohammed. His laughter became calculated, his words grew few, and he constantly felt a ghost haunting him, even when he was alone in the darkness of the night. Mustafa. He thought he was a juggler who knew how to play all sides. He believed that survival was a matter of cleverness, and that cleverness meant saving myself before everyone else. He would smile in Mohammed's face, then spend his night thinking, if the world turns upside down and the wind blows hard, who will be sold, and who will live? Mustafa lived these 2 years with anxiety gnawing at his heart. His wealth increased, but the ground beneath his feet was always slippery. He felt that what was coming would not pass in peace. Malik. These 2 years were longer than her entire life. In the beginning, she moved by force, against her will. An engagement, social events, and a plastic smile for every situation. Then, Karim entered her life, slowly. Without noise, without saying, "You must," and without imposing his control. And Malik, without realizing it, began to grow attached. It wasn't the legendary love found in novels, but rather the security of a drowning person. The security of having someone who looks at her while she speaks. Someone who remains silent when she is silent. Someone who does not force her into anything. She felt she was standing on calm ground. She did not know that this calmness was the silence that precedes the hurricane. Malik began to laugh more. But the old Malik was still awake inside her. That part of her that, as soon as it saw Mohammed being too silent or his eyes wandering, felt a sting in her heart and said, "A disaster is coming." Karim. 2 years passed while he was trying to prove himself. Not to Malik, but to himself. He felt that her heart was with him, but it wasn't his. Like something borrowed, if he pressed it too hard, it would break in his hand. He loved her with patience. He waited for her with long suffering. He thought that time was on his side. He did not know that there were wolves playing a game much longer and more dangerous than love. Haj Manam. He sees his daughter has settled down and his son has succeeded. He sits, praising God day and night. He does not see that this stability is built on shifting sands and secrets that destroy homes. He does not see that this success has a very high price, a price that has not been paid yet. And the world? Silent. More silent than it should be. As if it is gathering its strength for the next strike. In a faraway place. Far away from the bustle of Port Said and the noise of the harbor. Everything is white. Snow on every side. A silence so deep you can hear the sound of your own breath turning into steam in the cold air. The name of the place is not important. What matters is who is inside the palace. The same man. Still sitting in the same way, with the same terrifying dignity, and the same rings shimmering with the coldness of diamonds. But the papers in front of him this time were different. The reports say that the eye has begun to open. And that the past 2 years were enough for people to forget. But he did not forget. The account has not been closed yet. And the bag that was lost in the crowd must return. What was taken must be returned. And at the price that he determines. Saturday. Malik was sleeping in her room, curled up heavily under the covers. The kind of sleep where you feel your body is refusing to face the world. Suddenly, the ringing of the phone broke the silence and planted anxiety in the room. She stretched her hand with difficulty. She hit the nightstand first, then picked up the phone and placed it to her ear without opening her eyes. Hello. Malik? Good morning. Are you still in your deep sleep? Get up, my daughter. I am almost in your street. Malik, with a raspy and sleepy voice, still carrying traces of a dream, said. Kareem? Good morning. Okay, I'm awake. A moment and I will be ready. Kareem laughed with a tone full of tenderness. Fine. 10 minutes at most, and I will be under the house. She ended the call and put her head back on the pillow for seconds, negotiating with herself for an extra 5 minutes. As if she were escaping the day before it even began. She had no desire to go to work today. She felt a strange heaviness in her heart that she couldn't explain. But she didn't want to let Kareem down. Especially since he had become the only point of safety in her life now. She got up. Cold water on her face woke her up against her will. She dressed quickly, wrapped her hijab perfectly, and went down. Kareem was standing below the building, leaning against the car with his coat buttoned to the top. The cold air was lashing faces harshly. This year's winter entered, by force, in an unnatural way. Good morning, Lulu. Good morning, Kareem. The weather is deadly today. Did it decide to turn against us or what? Kareem laughed, then they got into the car. Everything outside was gray. The streets were quiet, and the rain threatened to fall at any moment. Malik leaned her head on the seat. She looked out of the window and let the road take her to the company, thinking. I wonder, what is the end of this silence? In a completely different direction. In the heart of the area of shops and agencies, Mohammed was sitting in his own kingdom. The shop smelled of an authentic blend. The smell of new paper, stored cardboard boxes, and goods that had just left the port. Mohammed was sitting behind his luxurious wooden desk. In front of him were complicated ledgers and accounts. He was writing and reviewing the numbers for the new shipment entering the warehouses. The import and export shop grew step by step, and it became a well-known name in the area. Money was indeed flowing through his hands. But deep down, he knew that this was still the beginning. And that the heavy game had not yet begun. He raised his eyes from the middle of the ledgers and called out with a firm tone. Ali. Ali, the shop assistant, rushed to him. Yes, Mr. Mohammed. Do you have an order? Mohammed handed him a bundle of carefully stapled papers. Take these papers and deliver them to Mustafa at the warehouse immediately. Tell him to adjust the stock he has based on this. I don't want a single mistake in the inventory. Ali nodded respectfully. Understood, sir. Consider it done. Ali left, and Mohammed leaned back in his leather chair, closing his eyes for seconds. He was looking ahead, but his mind was wandering somewhere else entirely. In the new expansions, in the amounts deposited in the bank, and in the next step. Everything was moving with extreme smoothness. But there was a slight sting under his skin that wouldn't stop. A suspicious feeling that this calm was a trap. And that this building he had constructed might collapse in a moment, if the owner of the trust appeared. Mohammed fell silent. He drifted into the smoke of his cigarette that filled the office. As if this smoke was the only security he felt. A cloud to hide him, and hide his secrets. At Mustafa's place. He was sitting behind his desk. The calculator in front of him was spitting out numbers and results. The ledgers were open to overlapping accounts like a maze. Numbers going up and numbers going down. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. He was always escaping to one terrifying point. All of this is temporary. We are walking on a knife's edge, and the slightest shake will throw us into the abyss. After a few minutes, the shop door opened with a slight creak, and quiet footsteps entered. Ali approached him and said in a normal tone, "Mustafa. This is the paperwork for the new goods. Mr. Mohammed says for you to adjust your work based on it." Mustafa raised his eyes quickly, painting the rehearsed smile he used to hide all his fear. "Fine, Ali. Leave them here. Everything will be all right." He held the papers and flipped through them without focus. "Will you take the inventory now, or will you stop by tomorrow?" Ali replied. "No, now. I must return with the rest of the papers to Mohammed." Mustafa. "Fine. Rest on that chair over there for 5 minutes until I finish." Ali sat down, and the shop returned to its silence again. Suddenly, the shop door opened once more. But this time, the knock was heavy. The knock of people who did not come to buy or sell. 4 men entered. 3 of them stood at the door like solid walls, their eyes scanning every corner of the shop. And the 4th, he was the one who stepped forward. Mustafa felt a clutch in his heart before he even saw them. An old and heavy feeling, as if a mountain had settled on his chest. He stood up quickly, trying to steady his voice that almost escaped him. "Welcome, sir. What is your command?" The man looked at him with a long gaze. "There is a certain matter. I wanted to have a chat with you about it." Mustafa swallowed hard. "Please, Pasha. I am at your service." The man stepped closer. His voice became low, but it pierced Mustafa's ear like a bullet. "About 2 years ago, or a little more, there was a bag that was lost in a street near here. In this very neighborhood. It fell from men belonging to me in the harbor crowd. Have you heard anything about it? Has any news regarding it reached your ears?" In that moment, time stopped for Mustafa. He felt his knees knocking together, and the ground began to shake beneath him. The image of the bag flashed through his mind like a lightning strike. The money. The terror. The night that turned their lives upside down. He held himself together with difficulty so as not to appear broken. "No, by God, sir. To be honest, I don't remember. Besides, things that get lost in this area usually do not return. Can you imagine, sir? 2 years? It has surely been lost in God's kingdom." The man laughed a short laugh, devoid of any mercy. "No. It is not like that. This trust must return. The matter involves necks. And you certainly understand what necks mean, clever boy." The word fell on Mustafa like a blunt knife. Necks. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out an elegant black card. He placed it on the desk with a terrifying calmness. "This is my number. If you smell any news, or hear even a whisper about it, call me immediately." Mustafa snatched the card quickly, as if he were holding a hot coal. "Understood, sir. I will ask and see." The man turned around. With a signal from him, the 4 left as they had entered. The door closed behind them, leaving behind the scent of death. Mustafa collapsed onto the chair. He didn't just sit, he collapsed. His breath became heavy, and his chest rose and fell as if he had been in a race. His hand was stiff around the card. Ali approached him, terrified. "What happened, Mustafa? Who are those men? Your face has turned yellow like a lemon." Mustafa raised his eyes with a lost look. "Nothing, Ali. Nothing." He reached out quickly and handed him the papers. "Take these. Fly with them to Mohammed, and tell him that everything is fine." Ali left, understanding nothing. As soon as the door closed, Mustafa leaned his head on the desk, his breathing audible. If Mohammed knew. If he knew that I accepted the card. If he knew that they reached the neighborhood. The devil began to whisper to Mustafa. I must get out of this mess. Mohammed will drown, but I must live. He whispered to himself in a broken voice. I must save my own skin, by any means necessary. Mustafa collapsed the moment he saw the Pasha, and the first thought that jumped into his mind was, I must save my own skin. Do you believe that Mustafa is truly capable of betraying his lifelong friend, Mohammed, and selling him out to save his own neck? Or is it just a passing moment of panic, and they will return to face the disaster together? Snake fire. And so, the page of silence that lasted for 2 years was turned, to open the door to merciless winds. While Mohammed thought he was building his empire, there was someone counting his breaths from afar. And while Malik was looking for a harbor of safety, the waves of the past began to crash again. The cards have been placed on the table, and the real game has begun. Will honesty withstand the instinct for survival? And will the security of the drowning person that Malik felt remain a reality, or just a mirage before the storm? Port Said, which slept on its secrets for so long, is now preparing to witness an account that has not been closed. And a price that must be paid from everyone's blood.